Politics and sex scandals go hand in hand, but here's a twist. What happens when a politician's biggest scandal involves completely legal intimacy with their own spouse? That's the fascinating premise behind James L. Brooks's new film, Ella McKay.
You know what's really interesting about this story? It takes place during the 2008 recession, when Emma Mackey's character becomes the third youngest female lieutenant governor to suddenly step into the top job.
The timing creates this perfect storm. She's got just 14 months before the next election, the economy is tanking, and then this bizarre scandal breaks about her using government property for private time with her husband.
It's almost comical how something so innocent becomes such a massive political issue. Like, she's not having an affair or taking bribes. She's literally just spending lunch breaks with her spouse.
Well, that's what makes Brooks's approach so clever. He uses this relatively minor transgression to explore how we hold politicians to these almost impossible standards. And Emma Mackey really captures that tension between personal life and public service.
The way she channels both vulnerability and strength reminds me so much of a young Anne Hathaway. You can see why voters would connect with her character while still being frustrated by her sometimes rigid moral stance.
Speaking of moral stances, let's talk about how her family background shapes that. Woody Harrelson plays her father, Eddie, this completely irresponsible womanizer whose affairs led to her mother's death. It really explains why she's so focused on doing everything by the book.
Oh, and Jamie Lee Curtis as Aunt Helen brings such wonderful energy to those family dynamics. The way she cuts through all the political posturing really grounds those scenes.
You know what's fascinating? The film tackles mental health through her brother Casey's storyline, this young man dealing with severe anxiety and agoraphobia after a relationship ends. It's pretty bold for what's essentially a political comedy drama.
That's exactly what makes this film feel so current. It's not just about politics, it's about how personal struggles impact public service. Even the setting during the recession adds this layer of economic anxiety that feels relevant today.
The supporting cast really elevates everything, too. Albert Brooks brings this wonderful pragmatism as the outgoing governor, and Kumail Nanjiani as her driver adds this sort of everyday perspective that helps ground the story.
Well, what really struck me was how they used Julie Kavner both as narrator and as McKay's secretary. It creates this interesting insider-outsider perspective on everything happening.
The decision to set this in an unnamed state was pretty clever, too. It makes the story feel universal, like it could be happening anywhere in America. Though I have to say, at nearly 2 hours, it does feel a bit long in places.
But you know what works really well? The way they structure these crucial 3 days that will determine McKay's fate. It creates this natural tension that pulls you through even the slower moments.
And let's talk about Jack Lowden as Ryan, her husband. He perfectly captures this politically inept but well-meaning character who accidentally triggers the whole crisis. It's both frustrating and completely believable.
That's such an interesting point about their relationship. You can see why they connected as childhood sweethearts, but in her current world, he's like a liability waiting to happen.
Brooks really excels at showing how personal and political lives have become inseparable in modern politics. Even something as simple as maintaining a healthy marriage becomes this potential scandal.
So, what do you think the film is ultimately saying about the way we judge our political leaders?
Well, I think it's suggesting that maybe we need to recalibrate our expectations. We want politicians to be these perfect moral examples, but we also want them to be relatable human beings. And those two things don't always align.
That's precisely why this film works as commentary on modern politics. It shows how even the most well-intentioned people can get caught between personal needs and public expectations.
Looking ahead, I think this film might actually spark some interesting conversations about privacy in public office. It's not going to win any major awards, but it's exactly the kind of smart, engaging political drama that makes you think about these issues in a new way.
And maybe that's exactly what we need right now. Stories that remind us that our political leaders are human beings trying their best to balance it all. We're giving it a score of 6.5 to 7 out of 10.
You've been listening to Movies First.
Available at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favourite podcast player. You can also stream on demand at Bytes.com.
This has been another quality podcast production from Bytes.com.